wanted to share the story with you about basically how my life has fallen apart. When things happen, you react and you kind of have this gut instinct. For my personality, at least, I'm forced into contemplation of, well, why did all of these things happen? And, what am I supposed to learn from this? As a Christian, I'm thinking, God is trying to teach me something through these circumstances, even though, I don't like them and I might not like the lessons I'm learning. I'm Melissa May Younger, and basically what happened was I had a child, and before I had my son, so I had him March 16th of 2022, and before I had him, I thought, like, babies sleep, right? That is something I fundamentally believed. It doesn't matter the baby. All babies sleep. All babies need sleep. And ironically, ours did not. Really didn't. He had serious struggles falling asleep. He was extremely colicky. He would be crying for many hours throughout the day, not just at night. He started out like 4 a.m. was like when he thought it was bedtime. So his like clock was like off. And so basically I would have to stay up the entire night with him. And then, around 4 a.m., he would finally go to sleep for a few hours. And then he'd wake up and want to feed again. And then he'd fall asleep for a few more hours. And that was basically it. During the rest of the time, maybe we could get him to fall asleep for like 20 minutes here or 30 minutes there. But like when you added up all his sleep time, it was equaling about 7 hours in a 24-hour period. And, I had a labor, which, left my body kind of broken. And it was a long, intense labor. And so anyways, not to give you like too many graphic details, but there was a lot of pain afterwards, and my body did not have the time to heal because I was carrying around this screaming child. Like most of the time he's awake, he's like screaming. Like a turning point was when I figured out, oh, I can like lay him down on the floor next to me and like hold a book above us and like read to him in a nice calm voice. And he was really interested in the pictures and in the words. And Brown Bear was like his favorite book. That was like the book that would like calm him down every time. And then I would find certain songs that I could sing to him, like the 1, 2, 3 Jesus Loves Me song. I don't know if you know that one. I'm not going to sing it for you right now, but I would just sing endless repetitions of that song for him to keep him calm, like in the car or something like that, because he also didn't like being strapped into the car. He didn't like being strapped into anything. He didn't like anything that was remotely uncomfortable. Anyways, we had a very long journey with him to getting him to sleep for extended periods of time at all. And I really, took a hit physically, mentally, emotionally, like just, so like, what do I do? I had read all the parenting books, all the sleep books. I had looked at everything online, I could not figure it out. The thing is, he was just a particular and sensitive child, and he really just wanted to be like on somebody all the time, and had tummy issues. And like when he would have to use the bathroom, he would just tense up and not relax. So he wasn't able to pass his stool. So anyways, I can fill you in with lots of details, but you kind of get the picture that it was like this insane, like hard time. I had dealt with so many different kinds of children that I thought I was going to be prepared. And I really felt like, like, God, what are you doing to me? Like, why give me this child who's like just like crazy needy, crazy, like he can't relax like without me, and how am I gonna survive this? And like if I put him down so I can go use the bathroom, he's like screaming bloody murder, and then I have to walk him around for like half an hour to an hour just to get him to calm down, that like he's traumatized that mommy left, So it was just so stressful, so stressful. And meanwhile, my husband's in this PhD program, and he's already behind on his assignments, and he took some time off while I had the baby, and then so anyways, it was just such a crazy, crazy time. Eventually he started sleeping, and then I was like, oh man, I have like a hole in one of my teeth, like a big deep hole. Wasn't feeling pain, but then I was like, oh man, that's not good. That can't be good. So I went to the dentist, and they were like, yeah, it's going to be a root canal. And so, okay, got the root canal. And they also told me, they were like, oh, you have a lot of other deep cavities that could become root canals. I was like, that's not good. So let me get all those done. So I got like 10. By the way, pregnancy like kills your teeth. Pregnancy and breastfeeding, because of the hormones, because it's draining all the nutrients from your body, and I was not getting the right nutrients, after my son was born, because I wasn't taking proper care of myself, because I was just trying to survive. And so anyways, I got all that work done, and then, it was like really shoddy dental work, which we found out like a couple months later when I started having like, a lot of pain in my mouth. So what ended up happening was I had to get 4 more root canals, and all of the dental work that had been done before redone by another dentist. And basically it was just so much stress and pain and money and like all of that, while like trying to figure out how to get my child to sleep, and then to eat, like initially he liked eating food, but then he was like, no, I really just want to breastfeed all the time. I want to breastfeed like 12 times a day, like up until he's probably like 9 months or so, 10 months maybe. My husband is finally getting on track with his program. My son has started to sleep better. We moved into a nicer apartment in the suburbs. Things seem to be settling down. We're reaching the end of the dental work in December. And then basically we go down to Texas for Christmas to visit his family, and get really, really bad COVID. And Christmas Day, we're heading back, road tripping it, because there was all the craziness with the flights. We're driving back with William, and he is like doing great. That was definitely God's grace. I got so sick Christmas Day that like my throat was like so swollen. It was like a bodybuilder. Internally, it was swollen, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like having trouble breathing. What's going through my head is I'm like, oh my gosh, like my child's not gonna have a mother. Like, what do I do? Like kind of those thoughts were going through my head of like, I have to like get healthy somehow. And I mean, fortunately, like it didn't turn into that. And so we made it through COVID. And then, now we're in January, and then I was having some kind of like pelvic pain. And I thought like, oh my gosh, I have like a hernia. And so I went to get checked out, and that's probably where we got the flu from the hospital. We got the flu like really bad, and like really bad body aches and bad nausea, and like, oh my gosh, we can't do anything. And then we recovered from that. And then, in March, right around the time my son turned 1, then like 2 days after his birthday, March 18th, he starts like throwing up like all day. And so I'm just like in the bathroom, like in the bathtub, just holding him, so that every time he gets sick, I can just like wash us both off, because he's just screaming. He's like terrified, and, I'm trying to like just keep him clean, keep him calm, keep him on me, skin to skin. So this was just around the time where my husband was going to be preparing for his comprehensive exams. And I'm like, what are we going to do? And he's like, maybe I'll have to take a leave of absence. And then we finally get William to go to sleep. He's not throwing up anymore. And then about 3 a.m., we wake up because someone is buzzing our apartment, just like buzzing, buzz, 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 buzz. And our intercom doesn't work. So my husband goes down to see what's going on. And I come out in the hallway and I'm like waiting for him to come back up, because we've had this before where like drunk neighbors will like buzz. Then he comes back up and he flicks on the light, and I'm like, okay, something is wrong, because he would never turn on the light with our son sleeping. And he just looks at me and he says, there's a fire, grab William. And so I'm standing right outside my son's door. I open the door and I see my beautiful boy just sleeping there after being so sick. And I just grabbed him and just ran to my husband. And then he's like, get your coat, get your shoes. And he had grabbed his laptop. And then he took our son from me, and I put on my stuff. And then basically we just went out the door. We went downstairs, and I remember we went down the stairway that was right by our apartment, and that there was like all this thick black smoke coming up. And so we're running down into the thick smoke, and I just remember thinking in my head, like, oh, there's smoke, we're supposed to crawl. And then I'm like, Melissa, what are you thinking? You can't crawl down the stairs. Like, you just have to run through it, basically. I didn't like think to hold my breath. But my husband is racing ahead of me with our son, like kind of covering him. And so, I crossed the landing after him, because he's like, I had turned to like go down the stairway, and he's like, no, like don't go that way, that's where the fire is. And so I followed him, and I just remember the door was open on the second floor, and the flames were starting to come out of it, and like just such thick black smoke. And so we go outside the apartment building, and we go into the parking lot, and I just see like this huge fire just completely consuming the half of the second floor that we're looking at back there. And basically, we're standing at the car, and that's when we a couple things happened. One, in this moment of insanity, I'm like looking at the car and I'm thinking, like, this is not our car. There's not going to be a car seat there. And I said to my husband, I'm like, this is not the right car. And he was like looking at me like, it's not, and then he looked at the car and he's like, no, it is. And so he's like, no, put William in. And then at that point we like hear one of our neighbors, who is also on the third floor. She's standing on our balcony right there. And she was like, I'm trapped. I can't get out. And we're like, I just remember us like looking at each other, and then I'm like looking at Drew as he's looking back at her and thinking, like, if he goes back in that building, he's dead. And like, if he decides to go in there, I'm gonna stop him. I'm gonna tell him not to, because we need him. And so anyways, and it was the right thing, I'm sorry. But that woman, I'll just tell you, she ended up passing away in the fire. And that's a horrible feeling, to be there and feel like, can I save this person, or can I let my husband go save this person? And thinking, no, like, I can't. We just have to get out of the situation ourselves. So anyways, he said, then my husband was like, the building might explode. Like something might explode there. And so he's like, get in the car. So he drove us just down the road. And I said, we have to call 911, and so he called 911 right away. And we told them, a woman's stuck. You need to like get here like as soon as possible. And then, we were like, so the first rescue vehicle that shows up, which is only a few minutes later, but it's not a fire truck. I don't remember what it was, but it was like this tiny little vehicle, and the people who get out are not like firemen in suits. And they don't get there, and the fire trucks don't get there for a while later. And then I just remember, us watching the firemen like kind of slowly putting on their suits and thinking, like, what in the world? I know it's a really, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. It's a hard job, and you don't want to go in there unprepared and whatever. I'm like, why wouldn't you be showing up on the scene like totally suited up and like just be like blasting in there to get that person? We were like, no, we don't think there's someone trapped. We saw her, we heard her, and then, we actually didn't know that one of our other neighbors, like the fire had started in her apartment. We didn't know that she had gone back in. So basically, when I had been running down, I remember hearing someone's voice, and it actually sounded like a male voice to me. But I think it was because our neighbor, her voice had gotten raspy from the smoke, and she was just saying, get out, yes, get William out. So she must have like seen us, and she knew it was us. She knew our son's name. So like, but I hadn't even thought afterwards like that meant that she was in the building, because I didn't even know where her voice was coming from. I mean, it's just like in that kind of situation, it's all adrenaline and instinct. And, all you can do is like just operate on like what you have in the moment. And so we really, think that it was God's grace that we were saved, that, his mercy that, our neighbor thought to buzz us, because the fire alarm, I guess, I don't remember it going off, but I guess it did go off when the fire was in the hallway. But the fire had already gotten pretty big at that point. And if the fire alarm had been our first indication that there was a fire, then it probably would have already been in the hallway by the time that we had gotten our son and gotten down there. And it would have been difficult to get out, but we possibly would have also been trapped on the third floor, and also have died. And so, we think like after that kind of thing happens, you just say like, wow, like we've been through so much crap. And, there's been a lot of hard things, but we're alive. Like, we are alive. And it didn't, matter. We didn't have our stuff anymore, right? Because we lost most of our stuff in the fire. And we just, like kind of, I don't know, it's this weird bonding thing as a family that like, this was so horrible. So, like just earth shattering when you realize, like, we lost a lot. We didn't lose everything. We didn't lose each other. And that's a real gift from God. And then, personally, it makes me reassess, just my whole attitude, because it's really not been very good through all of these things. I feel like I have moments where I'm able to be like, okay, God, I surrender to you. I trust you. I know you're taking care of us. But then there are other moments where I'm just like totally freaking out, swearing, being like, I'm just done, like just those ugly parts of me have all come out. Like the worst parts of me have come out in the midst of all these various trials. And, that shows me like, wow, there's still so much work to be done in my heart. And, it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad in those trials. It's not easy. It's difficult to recover from trauma. This time, I think I've learned a number of valuable lessons, and I don't want to lose those. And I also want to make sure that I'm sharing them with others, because I want all of these experiences to mean something. You don't want your suffering to be for nothing. And the first thing that I thought after, we knew we had probably lost everything, I just thought of, do not store up your treasures on earth, and how quickly everything can be destroyed or taken away. And, it is hard. It is unsettling. It is expensive to replace, all the little things that we take for granted. On the flip side of that, I saw God's provision, like God He can provide through all these creative avenues that we hadn't even thought of. And, so many people, organizations reaching out to us, just community coming around us to bring us things and be there for us, bringing us meals, like the week or two after anyone who showed up on our doorstep, we were just kind of like processing with them, like, oh, this is what happened to us, very like bluntly, and very like, this is our off the cuff kind of reactions, and where we're at right now emotionally. And a lot of that was just kind of, the trauma and the shock, but also just being like, wow, we're alive. What a gift from God. We're alive, we're together. We have a roof over our heads because we were able to come to a place that has temporary housing for, it was just God's providential provision for us, we feel. And, it reminded me also of Israel wandering in the desert, and they're literally not knowing, where their livelihood is going to come from, where their daily bread is going to come from, water, basic needs. They didn't know. So, we're so used to, you have to have money in the bank. In America, right, we store up things in our house. We had just gone to Sam's Club and gotten all this toilet paper and was stocked up on everything. And then, okay, all that's gone. We don't have any of that stuff. We need to now go out and buy all that stuff. And, we had, of course, left our wallets in the house. And so thankfully, the apartment we came to, we were able to, borrow a credit card just to get the essential things at the moment. And, like, it was just really amazing how God provided in that time, and then just like every day, God provided what we needed, and to get through and more. Now God has provided a house for us. That's the happy ending, is we are preparing to move into our house, and we're very excited about that, very thankful for that. We do feel like God has just provided a wonderful house for us. And I do think of the story of Job and just how he loses everything. And then, he has to go through this really tough and difficult time. And then at the end, God gives to him amply. And that doesn't take away the loss and the pain and everything that he had to go through. And I also, know that in times of trials, it's not that, I know that we're supposed to have joy in trials, counting them joy, because our faith is tested. And the thing about that is, we just have to remember that joy is not the same thing as happiness. I don't have to pretend that I'm happy about all the things that happen, because I'm not. I'm very sad about them. I'm angry at times, but I can have joy knowing that, when my life falls apart, God is there and God provides, and just God gets us through those tough times. And part of that is through, just community, people being kind. Part of that is through just, turning to His Word. And the thing is, it's like, I guess what I want to say is that I think that there can be this tendency for Christians to be like, you're going through this really tough time, just rely on the Lord, whatever kind of thing. Like almost like it's a, like brushing off the real feelings, the hard feelings there. And the thing is, like, God is with us in those hard feelings and in those really dark times, in all that darkness, God's not afraid of that. And I just think of Jesus, in the garden when he's praying and thinking like Jesus knows he's going to die, Jesus knows that he's going to be betrayed and that he's going to bear the sins of the world. And wow, so heavy, such a dark moment and such an isolating time for him. And then just to think of his physical suffering that he went through after that, and the humiliation of coming before Pontius Pilate, just every aspect of Jesus' suffering. I just think, like, when we suffer, we are in some way like drawing closer to our Savior and that experience that he had of his suffering. I don't know if I can articulate that well, but I feel it very strongly. I just feel that I can, draw closer to Jesus and just recognize, like, wow, how deeply he was sorrowful. And if I shy away from that, I'm not being genuine, I'm not being real. So I just want to say to anybody else who might be going through a difficult time right now, going through trials, that God is with you and he will not abandon you. And it's okay to feel really sad. It's okay to feel isolated at times. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel, uncertain, to struggle with your identity, to ask difficult questions. All of that is okay. And that, it's right to do that before the Lord and to be honest with Him about how you're feeling and the struggles that you're going through. It's okay to lean on others who you trust. I would say, not your average Joe wants to hear about all your sorrows. So don't, expect everybody to respond, or sometimes people just don't know how to respond appropriately. It's not that they're trying to be insensitive. People just sometimes don't know the right thing to say, or they don't know not to say all the wrong things. That's okay. Like, just look for the people who are able to be present and to offer you some love and support. And if you want to share about your experience below, I am happy to pray for you. And I'm sure that there are other people who watch this video who would pray for you as well. And I pray that God would bless you and help you in your circumstances.